Thanks.
Well, hi, Colin. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me. How's your voice?
My voice is actually bounced back, considering that 9 days ago it cracked when I was doing the introduction for Fubar 2, because that was one of the rowdiest audiences in the history of Midnight Madness, and I just had to yell and project over them to introduce the film, and I heard it just go. But I think I've had enough sleep, barely enough sleep, and enough alcohol just to kind of nurse it back to health.
So Midnight Madness is one of the programming categories at the Toronto Film Festival.
Yeah.
You've been doing it for 14 years, I think.
Yeah.
1 year co-programming and 13 years on your own. Very exciting.
Yeah, it's fun because it's every night during the film festival at midnight we show some weird, wild film from around the world. And we kind of throw the art house pretensions out the window, and the films are just there to entertain and have fun. Of course, it's still art, but it's kind of much more of an entry level to experience the excitement of the film festival.
And it's movies that, even if they were great, sometimes get overlooked at film festivals.
Exactly. I mean, the program started in 1988 and was designed initially for those films that just don't seem to kind of fit the festival definitions. And over the years, we've had a lot of remarkable talent start there and break out of there, including Peter Jackson, Eli Roth, Takeshi Miike, all first started in Midnight Madness. I mean, this year we have Takeshi Miike's 13 Assassins in the Masters program, but he started in 1997 with Fudo the Next Generation. So it's nice to see this director who would come back every year with a new film and now become recognized as the master that he is.
And you started in the audience yourself.
Yeah. My first year in Toronto, I came here for college from outside of the country and thought that I went to school for graphic design and expected to become a graphic designer, but all the clues were in my first week in Toronto, standing in line for, I think, Hellraiser 2, meeting people in the audience that finally, people I could talk to about the nuances of Italian cannibal cinema. And to this day, those guys that I met in that lineup are dear, close friends.
Do you help graphically design like the program or the thing for Midnight Madness?
I do some design. I've designed the blog. I used to do my own flyers and Xerox flyers and put them on the streets. So yeah, I look after as much as I can with my selections. I make choices there.
And this year you have a filmmaker that grew up in the audience as well.
Yeah, which is a delight. Jim Mickle, the director of Stakeland, it only kind of came, I only realized it when he did the introduction, but when he submitted a film 2 years ago, Mulberry Street, which sadly we weren't able to select at the time, he sent a letter explaining how he came to Toronto every year since '96 and loved the Midnight Madness program, and it's always been his dream to be in Midnight Madness.
And his parents brought him, right?
Yeah, and his parents were here last night for the premiere, and so he mentioned that on stage, and it all came flooding back. And so yeah, he came up to see, he was talking about when we showed Dario Argento's the Stendhal syndrome. He met Dario Argento at the urinal, and that's at 16 years old, and that changed his life. And he's like, I want to be a filmmaker. I want to be here with my film, and I'm just so happy that it happened. It's so nice and organic. But his film Stakeland is an accomplished film.
Very grim.
Very grim, but at the same time really beautiful. It's funny because some people who don't get it, and I'm fine with audiences not liking all the films because that sparks and creates dialogue.
It would be impossible for them to like every film.
But some people are like, oh, it's kind of a little bit like Zombieland. I'm like, Zombieland is popcorn. Stakeland is a finely seared, like rare sirloin by a master chef.
This is a big year for Midnight Madness. 9 out of the 10 movies are world premieres.
Yeah. Which
is exciting. I don't know how you measure success anymore, because at this point you are sold out virtually from the get-go every year now.
Yeah, we've really been able to develop the program, and it's the audience. I mean, the program would be nothing without the audience. They have such great energy and understanding of cinema. There's always this misconception like, oh, it's just all horror films and they come in costumes. Like, no, we're not talking Comic-Con. We're talking serious cinephiles.
Not that you don't like Comic-Con.
No, but it always surprises the director and the stars. They're like, well, who's going to be there at 2 o'clock in the morning for Q&A? And sure enough, the audience stays around for Q&A and asks sharp questions. When we showed Frontiers by Xavier Gens, it was kind of a Texas Chainsaw style horror film, which had a lot of comments about xenophobia in French culture. And so at 2 o'clock in the morning, we had someone ask a question about a Sarkozy quote, which was used in the film, in a horror film. So talking about Sarkozy at 2 o'clock in the morning makes me so proud of that audience.
And those people line up hours in advance. They're so rowdy. I mean, if I had a movie that fit into that world of Midnight Madness, I would love to premiere there, because I would be convinced I had Star Wars on my hand. Because they go, I've never heard them like be really negative on the film. They always want to have a good time. Obviously they go crazier the more they like it, but they are there to support and enjoy movies.
They're so receptive.
Yeah.
So, and it's also, I mean, that's also one of the strengths I think about Toronto, is that it's
friendly.
audience. It's friendly, but it's also audience driven. And when I'm programming the films for Midnight Madness, because I've been in the audience for 10 years, I have a feeling that I know what works and what doesn't, and they never want to waste their time or money like that. And I can never select a film that, if I can't get excited about it, how can I select it? So I like at least that my passion shows for these films, and hopefully can be a little bit contagious.
But you also want to challenge them. Was there a movie that you challenged them with and they didn't quite come up to it, that you were like, oh, I wish people had embraced that more?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, we had one film 2 years ago, a French science fiction film called Eden Log.
Called what?
Eden Log.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Magnolia distributed in the States, and audiences were really divided on it. But the audience that got it just really picked up on all the themes. I mean, this year's selection, I think maybe potentially Red Knights was a bit of a curveball, and I always try and put one in there, which is a little bit of a challenge. Even Vanishing on 7th Street doesn't have any hard answers, but you know what? That sparks the conversation afterwards. Yeah, I don't want to give them an easy ride with like 10 hits all the time. It's like something's got to make them think and work a little bit.
When sometimes there's a director whose talent you can see, and maybe it's not wholly successful, but you know it, there's enough there to share it and support their work and bring them back in a few years. I called Thursday Talent Vanishing on King Street because suddenly everybody was gone.
Yeah.
A lot of the journalists are gone. I was like, where did everybody go? I'm walking around up here and I'm like, oh, the audience is here. They're still seeing movies, but the journalists are Wednesday, Thursday, they all take off.
This is the part of the festival that I like, because the beginning of the festival was kind of top heavy with all the talent, but now the directors are coming in, like Jim Mickle and the directors of Red Knights, they're seeing other filmmakers' films. So Jim Mickle has been to basically all of the Midnight Madness films, Julien Carbon and Laurent Coutillard for Red Knights. They saw Monsters, they met the actors from Monsters, like, they are so beautiful, we have to see them, and they went and saw the film. And it's also about friends, like the filmmakers and the producers and the writers and everyone. It's kind of a smaller, closer group, as opposed to the bigger films, which obviously have usually an entourage around them and handlers